Welcome back. We are here for The Between, Dancing on Strings, episode 11. Val has a Mask of the Future to narrate, so please read the prompt and away you go.
Narrate a future in which you join a war for Britain and find that your skills as a knight prove inadequate in the face of modern weaponry. What year is it? Take a keepsake, after ask another hunter what it is, and then add it to your personal quarters. A coil of smoke. We see two young men lying together on a camp bed inside a tent. One, dark-haired with a neat mustache, blows a coil of smoke upwards and smiles. Ton français est très étrange, Valentine. The other, with his head resting on the first man's stomach, laughs and reaches to take the cigarette. He's neither particularly short nor particularly tall, with his short, thick blonde hair neatly parted and swept back. He takes a drag on the cigarette, then glances at his watch. Damn, it's almost 5. The dark-haired man makes a grunt of incomprehension. Je dois aller, Olivier. He rises and dresses quickly, the cigarette hanging from the corner of his mouth. A khaki shirt and tie, uniform jacket, heavy leather trousers and boots, a long leather coat, and white silk scarf. As he rushes from the tent, he grabs a leather flying helmet. We linger on the folding desk by the tent flap, a shaving kit, ashtray, pen and ink, and a small calendar showing the month of August 1915. We cut to the drone of an engine and the rush of wind. We see the same man, his goggled helmet now in place at the controls of a biplane. An observer sits in front of him, operating a small Morse code key, a mounted machine gun facing backward behind him. Below the plane we see fields and woods, and amongst them trenches, fortifications, men and material. The plane banks and sweeps across the enemy lines. Suddenly a shadow crosses the plane. The pilot looks up, shielding his eyes from the sun. Alec, 4 o'clock, the pilot shouts. The observer snaps his head around and then grabs the machine gun as the plane starts to dive to gain speed. Bullets rip through the wooden fabric of the plane. The German single-wing planes have forward-facing guns. The machine gun barks, returning fire as the plane twists to evade, but the German planes are faster and more nimble. Bullets strike again, and the observer slumps forward as the pilot cries out, hit. The engine starts to cough and belch smoke. The German fighter stays behind, riding his kill to the ground. Wrestling with the controls, the pilot desperately tries to keep the plane from stalling as the ground comes up fast. As it flattens out just in time and bounces, losing its wheels, then hits again, tipping forward. The German fighter starts to climb again and is soon out of sight.
Thank you. So, as we fade into this day after.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get a personal quarters item. I always forget that.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's so weird like that.
Who are you asking?
Who did I ask last time? I can't remember. Jeremy.
A bullet from one of the machine guns. Casing intact, it is of a caliber too large for any of the day's firearms to safely fire.
Now, as we fade in to the current time for the hunters, and perhaps is this happening as you come back from bringing the body to the mortician, or on the way to the mortician? Where does this happen that you stumble upon this clue, Kemuel?
Yeah, I think perhaps on the way back, maybe just on the the street outside of Hargrave House.
Oh, and it is your choice which threat it can go to.
Okay. Yeah, a gust of wind kind of kicks up and blowing across the cobblestones, coming to a stop at Kemuel's feet, is a poster that features a Scythian archer, kind of depicted in the style you might see on like red figure pottery. And the caption reads, "Dis pater deploys his constabulary."
Okay, So that'll be added to King in Shadows. All right, so that places 1, 2, 3, 4 clues at your disposal towards the resolution of the King in Shadows threat. So let's review the active threats on the board so far. King in Shadows. The question that you need to answer for the opportunity to resolve it is what roles are you intended to perform in the play? You resolve the threat by playing out this role during the play's next performance, ending in the tragic fall of the occluded king, or by breaking out of this role and ruining the production itself, thereby returning order to London. So that is a complexity 6, and again, you have 4 clues that you can call upon so far. All right, and 2 night phases remaining to try and deal with the King in Shadows threat. So, Emerald Orchid, very current threat. You have 2 ways that you could conceivably try and resolve it. One is a complexity 4 by answering the question, who has been reproducing the orchid and how can it be stopped from spreading? You resolve the threat by seeking out and destroying the original malevolent orchid from which the others were grown. Or the complexity 6 is, how is the orchid controlling its hosts and how can these effects be cured? You resolve the threat by studying the behavior of those affected by the orchid and creating an antidote. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. There's also the complexity 8, which is, how can the secret properties of the orchid be harnessed? You can resolve the threat by distilling the essence of the orchid into a useful form. Hargrave House gains access to the custom move Visions of Verdigris. All right. So 4, 6, or 8. And you only have 3 clues on the board so far that you can use towards it. And the newest of the threats, the Spider Silk Seamstress. Friend Hargrave House, Richard Harlow, was discovered strangely preserved, but essentially dead, drained. And you know that this is a Fae-based threat, and you have, just like Emerald Orchid, 3 different ways that you could possibly resolve it. Complexity 4 is answering the question, how is the creature ensnaring her victims? Resolve the threat by allowing a hunter to be lured by the seamstress as bait, then capturing or destroying her. The complexity 6 is by answering, what is the creature's true name? You resolve it by learning the creature's true name, gaining power over her, and dismantling the binding rituals which sustain her in this human realm. Okay, and as is said in the question, in the resolution, Fae names can take any kind of form. So, images, phrases, songs, art, that sort of thing. So, interpret it as you will from the clues. And then the complexity 8 is answering, what does the creature truly want? You resolve the threat by striking a bargain with the creature in accordance with ancient Fae customs. You can try to figure out what that is, or there's a list of choices that you could possibly make a bargain from. All right. And yeah, one of those choices could mean that somebody goes home with the Fae. So long as the agreement is kept, Hargrave House has access to a custom move known as Draw the Veil. Okay? So yeah, and there's no clues yet on the board. So best get to investigating. All right. Let's take a look at the hunters just to see where they're about. Kemuel has 2 conditions still. Daymond has 1. Maribel has 1 that she could conceivably relinquish. The other, not so much. Most Beloved stays permanent. And Val has 1 condition still on them. All right. So you can choose to do more vulnerable moves, or you can get to investigating. There's 3 threats on the board. I ask you, what would you like to do?
Definitely like to try doing something toward wrapping up King in Shadows.
Okay.
I'm not sure what. I'm perfectly happy to have a vulnerable scene if anyone wants one. Just thinking what I can do.
Well, if you're out to resolve the King in Shadows again, it's like, conceivably, you could do answer a question. You have enough
Mm,
clues, but you'd be rolling on a negative. So it is
mm,
possible. It's just
mhm, mhm.
knowing that you'd be, at a penalty. You can still do it, so long as you have a working theory, right? Um, or gather more clues to just try to help your roll, um, and then resolve it during night phase. That's what you just need to do. Um, or get other things done. I mean, it's not the first time that people have just done scenes just to do scenes because they're really involved in their own BS, which I also approve of.
Uh, I'm also open for a vulnerable scene if someone would like to. Though I think, as much as I'd love to continue Emerald Orchid, I have to wait for Amanda for that one, or for Maribel to get back. Can't do that one without them. So can Daymond go to Parliament to try and figure out how the King in Shadows is projecting into the mirrors?
Sure,
Because there's
absolutely.
something supernatural with that.
Oh, of course.
There
Yeah.
has to be.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe it's not as apparent during the day, but that doesn't preclude you from, checking it out, for
A
sure.
camera's still a camera.
Cameras. Well, check it out for sure. Okay. So basically you're going over to Parliament then.
Yes.
Okay. Val, I didn't mean to cut you off. Where are you?
No, it's good. I was thinking, so I want to figure out how I can research Atticus Whateley somehow. I'm
Uh,
thinking of maybe going
Hargrave
to,
House has a library.
yes, exactly, some kind of records or um I'm trying to think of the name of it, but there's like a publication that's published in the UK that's like all the people with titles in the country.
Debrets.
Um, that's it, yeah.
I shouldn't know that, but I do. But yes, I mean, like, and that could be at any library, I'm sure.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
like, maybe even Hargrave has, of course, has its own copy of Debrets. Of course they would. But that is up to you. If you want to go out or stay in, that is up to you. Okay. And Kemuel, what would you like to be doing?
Uh, I guess I'd also be open for a vulnerable move if anybody particularly wants to do one, but otherwise, I feel like Kemuel would probably feel drawn to investigate the Emerald Orchid, uh, given uh, it, it feels like it's dominating their thoughts this morning.
And I don't think that the I should have looked up the term before I got on today. The hematochromia has gone away from Hattie's eyes yet,
Uh,
and it's like she still has like the higher wispy voice, from before you went down into the basement. So yeah, there's still some there's still some kind of control there, but you know she's still she's still enamored with you, but like I think you might sense some lessening of control. How do you feel about that, just out of curiosity?
yeah, I think that they would feel. I think that they would feel both angry
Mhm.
and then a little. I think their mind would drift back to those thoughts, the conversation that they had with Valentine around the frailty of mortals and uh, how they're often not long for this world, which is cruel.
Yeah. But I think you would also see the morning paper, and then like you would see how there's a there's there's not only an exhibit of this orchid at the Kew Gardens greenhouse, but there's also like, like a study of it being done over at the University of London, as well as, just talk of like new gardening societies being sprung up all over like London, you know. So you have your choice of wherever you want to go, and then check this thing out.
Yeah, perhaps the university, as Daymond and Maribel had intended to go to the gardens, I believe, at some point.
The University of London, the Natural Sciences Department, just so you know. Okay. But yeah, let's go over to let's start with Damon over heading over to Parliament. If anybody wants to do a vulnerable move of some sort, like again, just whoever's vice it is has to set it up and then like figure out how they want to set it up if they want to. I'm not saying you have to.
We've all said we'd be open for one, but no one's acted, so I will foist one upon us, I suppose. Kemuel, since you've got two conditions, would you care to join me?
Certainly.
The church or the mortuary?
What do you think?
Perhaps the church. The altar, lighting candles for the woman who was recently run over by a carriage outside of Hargrave House. It is so rare, Kemuel, to take a moment and find a soul snuffed out so close to home. Thank you for joining me in honoring them and the material components they left behind.
Indeed. And does this candlelight look green to you?
Daymond blinked a couple of times. Now that you mention it, I suppose it does. What do you think caused it?
We feel out of sorts this morning. As we opened our wardrobe and selected our garments, our thoughts drifted most vexingly away from the beauty of our visage in the looking glass and turned to thoughts of orchids and pollen that glimmered like jewels in the air. Begin to forget what our desires were this day. And now we hunger for this flower.
I know what you mean. An orchid filled my dreams as well. The thought of wasting away today, doing nothing but digging up Hargrave House's garden on my hands and knees. I stand on my hands and knees for no one, but this orchid almost demanded it, that we tear out our beautiful garden and replace it with its own emerald visage. Is that what people feel like around you, Kemuel? Those that occupy your inner circle?
We wonder. They are flock, our children, yearn for us. But now we yearn for a communion with this green. Still it calls. But we have our children, our flock to protect us. They care for us. Do you feel care for this entity? What does your God, what does your sight offer in counsel for us?
Daymond will hold out a hand, palm up, and ask, "May I?" Requesting Kemuel's hand.
May.
And I will flip Kemuel's hand over and begin tracing along the lines of your palm. An odd line sits amongst your palm. It is a question mark to the world? No. It is a shepherd's crook. You care for your flock. And I will lift over my palm to show you, and trace your finger along my palm, along the silver threads that are starting to taint the visible skin. They glow green, ever so slightly. These lines should not be here. The threads that have bound me are being corrupted by spores. Maribel can see them. I, unfortunately, am blind to them. It is stepping out onto a stage to perform a play when you know not the words nor the blocking. The audience sees you nude. I am not afraid of the orchid. I am not afraid of the orchid.
Are you certain, Mr. Gray, that this flower brings corruption? Or might its gift be perfection? And they touch your cheek. We confess, we grow quite fond of you as of late. You seem most worthy. Ah, there's one of our flock now. Ah, yes, we were just speaking with Lady Winifred the other day. She informed us that the constabulary had put out the word they wanted to speak with us. Ah, but our flock loves us and tends us well. And Lady Wheatley Grainworth holds much sway over the men of Scotland Yard. She's assured us we're quite safe. Perhaps she'd like to see the emerald color. Perhaps she'd like to join us in this.
Sounds like you have a traveling companion for the day. I will leave you, good shepherd, with your flock.
We hope to see you again soon, Mr. Gray.
Conditions.
I was angling for marked by the constabulary.
Amazing. I love it. Nice reversal there. I love
Mhm.
it. Uh, Daymond?
I presume parasitic green thumb, as we discussed.
I like
No?
that. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, if you think you can release it by
I
them by
don't.
recognizing it, I mean you
Yeah,
can, but you don't have to. Although I will say from the conversation,
it doesn't
I w
feel released.
well, I'll change it.
Mhm. Oh,
Your condition is now changed to yearning for the green.
I like that.
That was a hell of a conversation. I loved it so much. Ah, God damn.
And perhaps it is a friend of mine's to blame, but a clue
Okay.
for King in Shadows. We
Okay.
discussed shepherds. Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat,
Ooh.
the actual ever-shifting cloak
Okay.
found somewhere, perhaps in a costume closet or what have you, but Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat.
I mean, I'll do
Or
you
a shepherd's cloak.
I'll do you a solid by saying that maybe as you're leaving this church, having lit the candle for the dead woman,
Mhm.
perhaps you see that they're getting ready for like one of the God, it's been so long since I've been at actual church um ceremonies or anything like that, but like, where they're setting up for you know, brain. Sorry. Oh, actually, oh, this makes perfect sense. All right. The holiday season is coming near because I will be including a holiday threat very soon. And maybe like one of the closets, like they're getting like some of the costuming out, like and you see shepherd's robes like being put out for like one of the displays or what have you. I think they do this for Easter rather than for Christmas. But anyway, period. Um, they one of the robes looks very unique, and it stands out because it does not look like a plain old shepherd's robe. So you can explain it as a technicolored dream coat if you want. That's up to you. However you want to describe it for your clue. An iridescent coat of many colors. Yeah. Let's head over to Val. Val, do you want to be looking at Deborah's at Hargrave House or elsewhere? I mean, like, you have access to a library, anywhere.
Yeah, I was thinking it might be interesting to go to like the office where, they would have heraldic records and things like that. I think that might be somewhere that Val is familiar with.
Okay.
And um and they would have a copy of Debrett's there, and they can sit and go through it, and maybe there might be other references if necessary. So College of Arms, that's what it's called.
I just found it. The College of Arms. Love it.
It's like, yeah,
Okay.
tip of
Give me
my
a
tongue.
second. College of Arms. All right, great. All right. The College of Arms is the official heraldic authority for England. Okay. So, you can do why am I having such trouble pronouncing things today? I swear. Genealogical research, records and collections, that sort of thing here.
Mhm.
So, paint the scene, um, you know, as you find yourself in these offices. And this is also an office where you can see the granting of coats of new arms, maintaining registries and all this kind of such and so forth. Um, how can you tell, paint the scene, how can you tell the the established families, the representatives of the established families, versus those that have gotten their coats of arms through monetary means.
Is a subtle difference with the coats themselves. The old families have coats of simple colors, those made of plant-based dyes, nothing too vibrant. The newer the family, the more recent the wealth, the more modern technologies went into the making of the paint. The new families quite literally shine above the old.
I think a difference can frequently be seen in the mottos as well that are displayed beneath the shields on the coats of arms. Those new money families tend to Latin, something that looks official and gives an air of ancientness, but the older families have their mottos in Anglo-Norman French.
And I think that the older families, the very names of the families are singular and ones we might recognize. And the new money, the new folk have many of them have affected these multi-hyphenate names that when you think about them seem kind of nonsensical, but they believe it lends an air of respectability.
What does that say about Gys-Otteray? And this is where you find yourself, Val. So, do you, in your different, jaunts through time, I suppose, would you imagine you've been here before at this particular establishment? Or this is the first time you've actually been to the college itself?
I think I've probably been to it in perhaps different forms or locations,
Okay.
but certainly some of the older family arms that are on display would be ones that I recognize.
Inquiries can be referred to the officer in waiting, so you're welcome to visit with that individual. And there's also, let's see, who's the ones who actually deal with the coats of arms are the senior heralds in the royal service, the kings of arms. This is amazing. I'm sorry, just looking at this article is just so much fun. But yes, so yes, you can talk to the officer in waiting here, or you can see if they can.
Yeah, I think.
Or just investigate on your own.
Even that Val might have standing in this place, that some kind of credentials that would allow them access to the library to research by themselves.
Okay, alrighty.
And yes, I want to see if I can find out anything about this Whateley who spoke of the fragrant void.
Do you have a specific? Did I even ask? I always forget. Do you have a specific title? Are you a sir or baronet?
I think I am a sir, yes.
Okay.
I can't remember now. I did write this down something when I first created the character.
The only reason I ask is if you are recognized, it's how they would refer to you and whom do you recognize here? That would be my question.
Yeah, I think Sir Valentine would be the correct form of address.
Yes. If you imagine that there is someone here that is like essentially the guide, the gatekeeper, the officer in waiting, then that individual perhaps like recognizes you. Ah, Sir Valentine, it is good to see you again. This is a flying visit, or is there something specific that you are looking for?
Yes, I wonder if you can help me. Just researching a particular name.
What particular name are you researching?
Mr. Atticus Whateley. I'm unsure if there may or may not be a title attached.
Let us see. Let me look through our records. Do you have time to wait? Is this something that you would just like us to research and then send along our results?
I have time to wait. Perhaps I can assist with the search.
Certainly. You know that there is space in our reading room at the moment, and I am happy to do the preliminary searches in our files here. But you are welcome to, again, go into our reading room and then peruse amongst the coats of arms as you see them.
Thank you. That's most accommodating. I shall
Yep.
call upon you if I need anything.
Of course. They bow, and then, they'll leave you to it. I mean, like, the reading room, of course, is just, like, probably, like, down the hall. You know where it is. And it's, probably a lengthy table or several tables. And then there's, like, walls, like, lined with, like, different coats of arms, different sizes, basically, of framed coats of arms of different families, and then also like files um, of the different coats that they can't put on the walls for whatever reason, or not as important. So of course they don't have a place of honor. Um, but yeah, this individual will be looking up the Whately name, and you are welcome to research as well. So this would be essentially a reason, or if you were going to do something more physical, vitality, if you're going to like try to find somebody else to talk to, or continue to talk to the officer in waiting, then you could go ahead and use presence. So how do you want to research?
Yeah, I think I was imagining some kind of book-based research.
Okay.
So,
Reason.
mm,
Information move with research, please.
let's see if I have anything that can help me out here.
Or do something to parlay your best stat, whatever it
Mm,
is.
yeah, let's just try.
Okay.
Oh, that's an 11.
Oh, nice. All right, cool. And this is on the King in Shadows, correct?
This is, yeah. It's following on from the first clue. The first clue is that we found notes
Yes.
written by
Someone called Atticus Whateley.
Atticus Whateley.
Alrighty. Fantastic. Oh, this could be fun. I can possibly pull the trigger on one of the clues that I wanted to since we started this threat. Okay. So I think as you're doing the research into the Whately name, you are finding references to Whately. Nothing yet specifically on Atticus, but as you research the name, like, currently the name is associated with a specific piece of equipment. It's nothing that you have, necessarily seen before. Like, it's nothing that um, is invented necessarily by this person, but I mean, like, it's just associated with their name. And then, like, as it goes further back, maybe there's some references to some writings by a Whateley, an A. Whateley. And then there is, in the writings, there is some kind of dark, curling, jagged symbol that is associated with the name and the writings of this A. Whateley. Just write this down, sorry. So the clue is a shadowy sigil written in, or excuse me, a shadowy sigil referenced, associated with A. Whateley. And like it'll actually give like a depiction of the sigil. It's a dark, curling, jagged thing. And I think you recognize it because you saw it before. It was on the wall of the Ranelagh Chapel. But you didn't recognize it as such back then because it was just, you thought like, oh, it's a splotch on the wall because they were doing construction down at Ranelagh. So why would you think it's anything except, schmutz on the wall, you know?
Hmm.
So, but you're like, oh, wait, this looks familiar. Or it could just as easily be, I don't know, an ink blot, like somebody like had a pen that like, some blotted some ink. Who knows? And since you got the 11, it's like, there's no
No mastermind nonsense this time.
no mastermind nonsense, no complications associated with it. Free and clear. I mean, like it's yeah. And strangely enough, in the light of day, in the middle of this, very practical, very stoic seat of information, it's like it's right there. It's like just written down. So I mean, like, this is factual. So, clear as day. No shadows attached.
I will see what Mr. Gray makes of the symbol later. Perhaps it has some meaning to him.
Exactly. Kemuel, what do you do after Daymond leaves you in the church? Do you approach Lady Winifred, or are you after something else? Do you head over to University of London?
Yes, I think rather the recognition of a follower perhaps reminds them that there are worshippers among the faculty of the university, and so they proceed there.
Okay, awesome. Without preamble, I think you do make it to the university. As you stride through these academic halls and grounds, what are you wearing specifically? You did hint at it when you were talking with Mr. Gray, but I want to know what you're wearing.
Yes, I think that they are wearing actually a very conservatively cut slate gray men's three-piece suit. But rather than a tie or cravat, they have an emerald green kerchief tied around their throat.
Are you barefoot, or do you actually have shoes on?
No, barefoot. I think barefoot.
Okay. I think as you make your way to the university, and like, you cut, of course, as always, a dashing and striking figure, especially with being barefoot and the emerald green cravat. Anyone watching you walk past will see that on the back of your heel that there is a bit of green, that there is the look of someone who has like a root system underneath. Perhaps you don't feel anything, but I mean, like, there's a look of like tendrils underneath your skin, right? So, glass cases entomb rare specimens of flora and fauna. There are drawers and shelves packed from floor to ceiling here in the most um, academic of places in the natural sciences department, and a group of researchers are gasping reverently as a newly arrived shipment of specimens is opened. Paint the scene. The wonders of the natural world are being catalogued here with zealous detail. How is the information gathered here woefully inadequate to face the horrors that you also know to be real?
I think as Kemuel looks around and sees these students and scientists making their notes and cataloging their work, it all has the stink of newness and hubris about it. These humans, their scientific method. They think they understand the world so well. This knowledge is like an eye blink. It's only a scant few hundred years old. We remember when Isaac started this nonsense. It has never been capable of looking the truth of the world in the eye.
Are you
And they just sort of smirk.
Is Kemuel speaking as Kemuel, as the orchid, or as something else?
I think that they're speaking as Kemuel, although we notice their thoughts, their sort of internal dialogue starts to just trail off, distracted by a glint of green light shimmering through the window.
Just making sure. Who else?
I think we see some of the students unpacking and unwrapping a bone that they are placing with the bones of prehistoric creatures that are just coming into understanding in the present day. But this particular bone was found in the mountains in Wales and is not as old as to be fossilized, but it is very large, and were Val to see it, they might recognize it.
They're sort of sitting out on a table with about half dozen students around it is a rock that was found in a cave. An inexplicably old cave that was thought to be older than humans. Carved into it are symbols that they assume were done by some animal. But it's in a repeating pattern, almost as if the animal carved the symbols and moved on. Were a certain beloved individual to glance at it, they would see their own name written on the stone. Kemuel Robel.
Okay. And these are the things that you see as you rock on up, barefoot and striking. There is there are two individuals that look like they're overseeing the whole process. There is someone that looks essentially professor-like. Mossy tweed jacket, overstuffed pockets, a wispy beard, cheery expression with the crooked spectacles on their face, and just gesturing wildly, just excited and very attentive to the person who looks like they are squinting a lot at all the activity in front of them. Thick mutton chop whiskers on this person with rosy cheeks and a conspicuously gold pocket watch in their hand that they keep checking as this professor is just talking their ear off, and they're just like checking the watch. But yeah, they're off to the side as all this other stuff is going on here in the natural sciences department. What do you do?
I think that they will just stride directly up to the mossy tweed jacketed individual who seems to be lecturing, and oblivious to to the conversation, just butt in and say, "We were told that there was a specimen of the emerald orchid being studied here. We would like to know more about it."
And they, I should say, the professor stops mid-sentence, kind of jaw going slack for half a second, realizing what you're saying, as if they're slowly processing your words because they're a lot slower than their words. And then the other person is just turning away from their watch and actually looking at you and then doing a double take because it's of course you're beautiful, so of course they gotta look. And then just the mutton chopped fellow with the gold watch is just like, oh, yes, the marvels of the natural world never cease to inspire. Every secret we uncover brings another mystery, it seems. Never mind building another museum. No. It's everyone wants to display their own specimens nowadays. Like ourselves, of course. I take it you are a collector yourself, finding yourself seeing or hearing about our addition to the collection. I am
Yes,
Lord Pembroke.
Lord Pembroke. A pleasure.
And you are?
Kemuel Robel.
Pleasure
We
to
collect all sorts of things and people.
Do you have an orchid of your own? And then just I see you have a similar colored kerchief to our wonderful display feature.
Yes, we have seen it. We had it within our grasp, but it suffered an unexpected poisoning.
Oh no.
And is now no more.
Did you get a chance to share it? It must be shared with others. And he was about to say consciousness, but before he manages to say that, then the professor companion person, butts in and says, Oh, curious indeed. By remarkable coincidence, it so happens that I've begun research on the same similar subject that shall we say, does not fall too far from the tree. Well, I'm Theodore Bramwell. I'm a professor here at the Natural Sciences Department. Good to meet you. Good to meet you, sir.
Good to meet you as well, Professor Bramwell. What a delightful coincidence that you are the very person who's embarked on this concurrent study. You seem like just the man to talk to.
Of course, it's far too complex to summarize here, but as you've no doubt read my previous work, just like Lord Pembroke here, of course. But again, as I go on, you've seen it, so you know. I mean, there's so much to study with that beautiful orchid. Is there anything that you wanted to see more of it? Because you must see more of it and share, of course.
Yes, we would be excited to share it with our ever-growing circle of friends, shall we say.
I think at the moment you say like they're like share it with ever growing circle of friends, I think there's this sudden glow, or it kind of like, how to say, there's a light. There's a green light that appears in Professor Bramwell's eyes, and it stops him silent, strangely enough. And, he kind of just gets arrested as if he's listening to something. And then he just kind of like just smiles that wide smile and then goes on again and then like will gesture for you and Lord Pembroke to follow as he will, go to where their specimen of the orchid is. But if you want to do any kind of investigation, further with either talking with him or Lord Pembroke, or if you want to just do straight observation, reason, something or other, like investigation here as you're going through, you can totally do so. I give you the opportunity to do so before I switch over to Daymond.
Yeah, I think that they will being a little distracted, almost enchanted, perhaps, they will just try to keep their eyes open and take in not only the displays and investigations around them, but these two gentlemen to see if they bear any other telltale marks or signs or verdant roots about them.
Okay, so information move with reason, please.
Okay.
Keep it straight.
Oh, yeah. I set myself up for failure on this one. I always forget. Kemuel's reason is -1.
Which you got.
Oh, that's not so bad. 9 minus 1 is 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's not terrible. It's fine. Okay. 8. Okie dokie. Oh. Let me give you a clue first, and then I'll give you the complication before we take a break, okay? You're taking it all in, right? You're just like kind of like observing everything that's going on. Yeah, there's so much stuff here. It's amazing. Okay. So I think in all the cacophony of all the people unpacking things, some of them are plants, some of them are bones, some of them are just like, things that are going to be cataloged and then put into the glass cases. There's also books that have been unpacked as well. And then there is a particular manuscript that was unpacked and put in a featured place as if it's going to be transported to go to be with the exhibit with the orchid. In fact, it's probably earmarked with some of the other stuff that's going to be brought over to the orchid display. It is an advanced manuscript of entitled Thought Forms, propped open. Excuse me, as I'm trying to, for whatever reason, it doesn't like italicized for this particular font. Sorry. Okay. So, advanced manuscript of Thought Forms, propped open at a section titled The Spiritual Significance of Colors. That's what you see. And it's a very striking manuscript in of itself, because not only is it earmarked for going to the orchid display, but it is as if it is not just regularly printed. I mean, like, it almost has designs and notations in this particular section, as if the ink itself has color to it, has some kind of shine and sheen to it. And then I think as you're on your way, you're following Professor Branwell to go to the orchid exhibit and what have you, and all this other stuff. I think there is a person that you see on the way of stained waistcoat, soiled gloves, trailing scattered equipment like in the yard. And they are sprawled in the dirt with a wild skyward gaze. And their gaze goes from the sky and moves all around, looking at everything and everyone, and settles on you, Kemuel, in that very chromatic gaze of the different colors, and gleams that color out of space. So Kemuel, this very disheveled looking individual, is looking straight at you with that very strange, colorful gleam in their eye. It's almost like a beacon, a lighthouse. They seem to be talking, but you are not close enough to be able to hear what they're saying, as Professor Bramwell's leading you. Lord Pembroke is kind of trailing the rear, and you are, again, just following to where they lead. Do you do anything?
I think Kemuel is so taken by this sort of gleam in this new individual's visage that they almost mistake the fact that this person is one of their worshippers. And seeing that, they immediately move toward them,
Okay.
just abandoning the other two.
Okay. All right. So, giveth, I guess. Is there anything in particular that you are doing with them as you use giveth? Of course, you have to scar your reflection and let us know how your reflection is scarred, of course. Marching ever closer.
Yeah, I think we see the latest edition of the broadsheet, and where the illustration and text had previously been in black ink. That ink is now a dark green. And as one reads the words, you don't quite see it looking straight on. It's more out of the corner of the eye, but in amongst the descriptions of what he who shall not be denied has been up to, there are these flashes that just say, yearning, verdant, avarice, blossoming.
As you come up to this person, how do they debase themselves? Kemuel.
I think that they sort of maybe come to their senses, but then just start laughing hysterically, uh, clutching their sides, uh, and then crying.
I think that's so because as you make sense of what they are saying in their laughing and then crying, you hear, as our petals unfurl, we rejoice in our new form, knowing the seeds of our awakening germinate in the rich soil of decaying dreams. For nothing truly dies when all is animated by the same sparkling void, each one branching out to the light, the source, the true path that is ever onward through the endless shimmering green. And the smile that he raises to your face is beatific and gleaming with the same green that echoes in your cravat and the eyes. You almost see blooming petals in his irises. And he gestures in his laughing, crying for you to follow as he speaks of the sparkling void. Do you follow?
Yes, they will follow.
Daymond, you make your way over to Parliament. What's to say about Parliament, right? I mean, big official building and, business is being conducted. Or maybe not. Maybe after a performance, maybe it's strangely quiet, after what Val saw. Perhaps the particular room does. Oh, you know what? Okay, that's the paint the scene then. So again, as the chamber, the wide chamber that the performance was being held, it is in daylight, looking about as normal as it can, with the vestiges of some of the shadows still lingering in its high corners and hidden recesses. But what residual feelings do you get, especially with your sensitivity, Daymond? So this is just for you. What residual feelings do you get with your sensitivities? Do you know that the performance, the play, is still resonating here?
The Greek choir that narrated and sang out the joys of the king in shadows. There is a final note to that song that has not stopped ringing. It is high-pitched, the kind of annoying buzz that people claim that only teenagers can hear. Daymond Gray can hear that note still being played out, still being sung is the wrong word, still being enunciated. It is as if the play is still going on.
It's as if the sound is again twanging on on your skin. Like you can feel it as if like it's raising the hairs on the back of your neck. Do your entities respond to such things, or are they continually whispering in your ear as kind of like that white noise, or should I say dark noise, against such a thing?
They have been strangely silent the past few days, ever since that accursed orchid made its way into the house. It's as though the white noise has turned to green noise. The key difference being a harshness goes into a mellowing, almost putting you to sleep kind of sound.
It's being like smothered with the softness of petals, perhaps. Well, you're here again. Perhaps again on the edges of these dulled senses, you are seeing the shadows in the corners and hearing that light resonance right on the edge of your hearing of that Greek choir, the note that just hums just at the edge, out of place. How do you want to investigate here?
Through gritted teeth, Daymond will head to where center stage was. I presume the seating, the house, the large wooden plinths in the House of Commons have come back. But go to where center stage was and stare out, following the same path that dark camera sat, trying to figure out how they captured the play and forced it into the homes of Londoners.
Tough trick.
It is.
Information move with sensitivity or one of your moves?
I don't actually have any. It would be rights of salt and smoke would be the only thing that could apply. But let's see.
Depends on what kind of result you want.
I'm just thinking. For the effect of observe another time or place, would that allow me to see backwards one full night? Otherwise, information move, rights of salt and smoke in Damon's current state feel disingenuous to how he's feeling. There are many things competing for his attention.
Yes, there are.
and calling out to one may disrupt the others.
Hey, parlay me, you know. I mean, it's like, what do you think makes the most sense? Because with rights of salt and smoke, not only will you like try to run for a specific effect, but then you're going to have to get a specific complication unless you roll really well. So
I'm thinking it's information move.
okay. All right, it's fine. Keep it general, sure. But with sensitivity, of course. And if you have anything that you want to add for personal quarters to kind of help bump it up add advantage or disadvantage. Hold on. I've been bad about looking at conditions and all this kind of stuff. So give me a second.
It's just yearning for the grain.
Yeah, it's not gonna. King in Shadows is like, having is butting heads with the orchid right now. So I'm just gonna say it's a straight roll with sensitivity.
Well then, that's a 13.
Well then, you narrate what the hell you want, and I get to narrate how much fun I'm gonna have.
I'm very glad we've moved away from Mastermind Clue Timer. It is
Maybe so,
Rob,
maybe no. We don't know
Rob,
yet. Let's find out.
Rob is right. It was an information move.
Okay.
So, am I still narrating things?
You are.
Oh, no,
And I get to
no.
narrate some stuff in a bit too.
Oh, no.
Yee. Me. Go ahead.
On this platform where center stage was last night and is likely to be tomorrow or this evening, the crowds move around. Um, Parliament continues on at whatever little business is happening as Daymond just sort of stands there, staring out into the nothingness. It's not particularly clear how or why he's interrupting even just a minor session of Parliament, but he's there, staring out, and sort of something catches his eye on the far end of the room and just sort of walks across it, possibly over a table where people are discussing. He hasn't heard a single word that's been said. The buzz is too loud. As he makes his way across, he steals a chair from somewhere and climbs up on it to try and tap at part of the wall. His finger just passes through the wall as if it wasn't there. And he steps through the wall to a projectionist's room would be too modern. I just imagine that there is a giant piece of glass covered in silver, in gold, in platinum, in any of the shiny reflective metals. There might even be some mercury on the glass, each one of which captures the House of Parliament from a slightly different direction. It is this glass that projected into the mirrors. But whoever operated it and the details behind it are missing.
Do you want to? I was trying to unmute. Do you want to incorporate that as part of your clue since you got the 13 somehow? Or did you want me to give you a clue and incorporate that particular part of it with the clue? It's such a good role. I mean, like, I give you the choice. You can make that the clue as, like, as something that you create to put your thumb on the scale, or I give you a clue and then you just add it as, as the extended version, however you want to put it.
I like the clues from King and Shadows far too much for me to continue to put my finger on the scale.
Okay. Fair. Fair, fair, fair. So I think as you're looking at this, you are seeing the setup where the mirrors are propped in such a way that they're reflecting the center stage from different angles. But somehow this reflection trick, the further way it's being conveyed is not completely clear to you. Also, because of the shadows lengthening and pointing in a particular direction, heedless of the sun's position. Shadows lengthening and pointing in a particular direction, heedless of the sun's position. Yep. Okay. And that puts another clue on the board for King and Shadows. All right. So that's 7 available. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 available to help explain. I guess, to help you resolve the threat if you think that helps. All right. So anything anybody else wants to do for the remainder of day phase? Val is still at the College of Arms. I'm going to say that Kemuel, if you will allow it, I think when you follow this little botanist person, they don't give you a name. You may not even care. But yeah, they just kind of like, worship you and just introduce themselves to you as the little botanist. They bring you to their conservatory. It's a tucked away part of the grounds at the university, and you see this, and you tell me what you think of this. It's a forest of exotic plants pressing against tall glass ceilings. There's moss and dirt covering every surface, seedlings bursting almost violently through the cracks of flagstones. Everywhere, sparks of emerald buds peer from the foliage. And this is a paint the scene to have us close out of this particular scene. The botanist has clearly lost control of their work. What signs show that they continue to pursue their experiments anyway? This is the botanist's conservatory.
There is a horse and cart delivering sacks of fertilizer, despite there being barely any room to put it anywhere.
I think there's a journal with pen and ink where they are making meticulous notes about their observations. But then those notes are kind of covered with like little scritchy drawings of vines and blossoms and leaves.
All of the tropical plants in their conservatory are dead. Not because of carelessness or neglect, but because there are too many plants. And the glass for the greenhouse of their conservatory has shattered as some of the plants have grown too large, letting the heat leak out.
Oh, do I do this to you at the close of this? Yeah, sure. So I think for your 8, Kemuel, I think as you find yourself following the botanist into their conservatory, this chaotic mess of plants and growth, they're facing away from you because they've led you in. And I think as you've turned back to the door, perhaps to leave or just to see, to exit, the plants have closed in. And when you turn back to the little botanist, you notice that there are roots sprouting from his sleeves. And he slowly turns to you. And you realize that his eye sockets are starting to bloom with emerald petals. Val, you're over at the College of Arms. And I think the officer in waiting has come by and brought a mysterious file. This is unmarked, sir. I almost didn't find it. There seems to be something that is hidden. I have to tell you. This has a particular symbol on it. It is associated with a an organization that keeps certain things hidden. And I'm not even sure that I'm supposed to find this.
May I see the symbol?
In one of my other campaigns, it's basically, oh God, do I disclose all this crap now? I'll do it offline. Basically, it's associated with like one of the other campaigns, and it's like a secret organization that may or may not exist. All right, they sort of work with Hargrave House. They know about Hargrave House, whatever. Anyway, yeah. So they know about the Whateleys. They know about, some of the weird shit that they're into the occult. And the officer in waiting basically says, it's like, you can see it here, sir. I think all I can do is let you take a quick look, and then I have to return this. Otherwise, it is not only just me in trouble. I think we will all be in trouble if this is discovered missing.
What made you think to bring it to my attention?
Would you say that this is somebody who knows about your specific ability, condition, specialness? I mean, however you want to describe it.
Maybe, but it's something they would certainly be discreet about.
Oh, sure. But this person is also, so therefore it's like I think they would be. And if you want to include them as like, some kind of NPC that perhaps reminds you of a trusted squire or something like that from your past or future, I'm perfectly happy for you to do that, because that's how I play around here. But anyway, yes. So that's why they trust you. And they'll have you look into the file, and, you'll see that if you want, then you can take a little peek and see that there is a connection from this Whateley that's mentioned in, that you've mentioned specifically, Atticus Whateley, to research into this void. Talk about fragrant void, like the void space and all this kind of stuff, and how it's tied in certain respects to other places that have been described. And there is a connection to a specific camera. But that's a brief description. There's nothing confirmed yet.
Very curious. Seems as Whateley has his, if it indeed is the same man, has his finger in a number of pies, as it were.
That's why I thought it should be brought to your attention, sir. But I need to hurry away, and I need to return this to where I have found it.
Certainly, I appreciate your discretion.
Of course. And he hurries away. And I'm only mentioning it because you rolled well enough, and it may come up later. Who knows? Don't know. And for Daymond, I think the shadows that you're seeing in a particular slant, as you're looking around, it goes completely silent. You don't even hear that on the edge tone anymore from the Greek chorus. And from one of the passageways in Parliament, out steps a woman in a dark cloak and a hood. You can only tell that it's a woman because of the form, and from the fact that, like, you can see her nose and her mouth from underneath the hood. and she seems to have silver-tipped fingers, and she just steps through the door. And she says something whispered, quiet, but I don't think you quite understand what she's saying, because then I think you recognize that she's speaking in Italian. But I don't think she realizes that you don't understand her until you don't respond, I suppose. And then she will say, "You are Mr. Daymond Gray, yes?"
The one and only.
And she smiles underneath her hood. "Well, you are unique, I'm sure. It is a pleasure to meet you in person."
It is a pleasure to meet you, though you appear to have an advantage over me. I do not know your name.
"My name is Ravenna Rossetti."
It is a beautiful name. Rolls off the tongue.
"You stand in the house, or in a house of power, with power of your own. Tell me, do you ever think to unseat power, to take it upon yourself?"
You appear to think I have more control over this than I do.
Oh.
I am not some grand schemer. I am not looking to change the world. Just to do as I am told.
Then I have less to convince you of. Some believe they are in control of their own actions, and her fingers start to dance, almost as if she is moving things with them. Some believe that they have will of their own. They are allowed to be with blinders on, and yet they are pulled to and fro by strings, just like everyone else. Do you know Queen Victoria and her ancestors have perpetrated violent legacy for far too long, and all empires must fall? You could join me, you know. Not as equals, never as equals, but you could be a favored pawn, retain some autonomy. What do you think of such a thing?
Fortunately, I am already playing a game of chess, where I am a pawn on someone else's board at the moment. Perhaps when that game finishes, the chess set that contains me will relinquish me.
She smiles very deeply upon hearing you being upon a chessboard. "Oh, You should know. Oh, do I tell you? Sometimes all it takes is knowing who the players are on the board and knowing who is moving the pieces. And that sometimes is enough.
But that is the tricky thing about pawns. They can never look backwards at who is controlling them. They only look forwards at who they're up against. That is until they reach the end of their row, their rank, their duty done, and they transform into something different.
Would you like to transform then? Transform into something stronger, more powerful. Is that what you would like?
I would first like to march to the end of that great board at the speed at which I am moving. To push a pawn faster forward would be to break the rules. A pawn may only move one square forwards at a time. A puppet may only dance on so many strings at the moment. And Daymond will unfurl his arm and begin pulling a thread out, the same one that was spiked green earlier. There are only so many people that can hold a string before it is more hands than string. And as the string keeps getting pulled, it transitions from its emerald green to silver and then to black.
She smiles as if she understands your meaning, but then she also will bring her fingertips together, let the silver tips touch, and then cat's cradle something in between her fingers as she creates something that looks strangely similar to your strings, your silver strings, and says, "Well, then it is lucky that I am a puppet master extraordinaire. You have not seen me play. But I leave you with this, Mr. Gray. Consider, as you say, there are those that can limited amount of strings that can be put upon someone. But what of the strings to your heart? Who has the ties that bind there?" And she will step back into the shadows of that archway and disappear backwards into that hall. And if you search for her, if you chase after her, she is gone.
I think Daymond would chase after her. At the mention of heartstrings, Daymond would probably just say to himself out loud, "Oh, those have been cut long ago and no longer hold a knot."
Given that, anything anybody else wants to do for remainder of day phase, or are we moving into dusk and answering questions and such? What are we doing?
We have enough clues to take a stab at a question now.
Okay. If that's what you want to do, does anybody have a working theory? That's the other question. When
That
you
is the tricky part.
when you look at the clues, do you have something that works as a theory? So let's take a little look-see for the recording. All right. So we have 7 clues on the board. Or is it 8? Hold on a minute. 7 clues. 7 clues on the board for King in Shadows. A collection of handwritten notes regarding A Fragrant Void by someone called Atticus Whateley. A line from Lysistrata by Aristophanes. There is no beast more stubborn than a woman, and neither fire nor leopard is more ruthless. A costume crown dripping with blood and black ichor. A poster featuring a Scythian archer, depicted in the style one might see on red figure pottery. The caption reads, Dis Pater deploys his constabulary. Iridescent shepherd's cloak of many colors. A shadowy sigil associated with A. Whateley. And shadows lengthen and point in a particular direction, heedless of the sun's position. Okay? So those are the clues that you have. Yeah. So again, you're answering the question, what roles are you intended to perform in the play? And you're either going to be playing out the roles or breaking the roles. Breaking out of the roles. What do you think? I think it's kind of a decision of like, are you kowtowing
Beyond
to the
maybe
play or not?
beyond maybe 3 of them that are kind of suggestive of characters, I'm a little stumped as to how to apply these.
So I think the first question we need to answer is whether or not we want to play these characters or break the play. So do we want to be in the play and defeat it from within, or break out of the roles set forth?
And you can define the roles. It's not like you have to be the Duchess, the Prince, and the Knave. It's just a matter of like creating the roles that are, you're intended to perform and playing them or breaking them. So
I would vote for breaking them. I don't know
okay.
how anyone else feels.
No preference.
Yes, I think breaking them has a certain appeal to it.
Okay.
So it feels like we have a crown, an archer, and a shepherd's cloak that kind of potentially suggest roles to me, but yeah, beyond that, I'm kind of struggling to establish any theory here.
So I pose that there is a 4th character hidden so that we can all 4 participate in the play. That of no beast nor fire. So there is no beast more stubborn than a woman, and neither fire nor leopard is more ruthless. That feels like it's talking about Maribel. Maribel is the only one of us that is not a beast. Maribel is the only one of us that is stubborn enough without necessarily meaning to move forwards. So a character who is no beast, who I guess in the spirit of breaking the play needs to be kind, to be unlike the leopard, unlike the fire.
To show mercy. And a costume crown dripping with blood and black ichor suggests some kind of corrupt royalty figure. Like a tyrant.
That it does.
What's the meaning of the caption there, Kemuel, on the pottery? Or the poster, rather, sorry.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they I think the Despater was used in the play, or Despater was used in the play to refer to the king in shadows.
Mm.
But ostensibly the Scythian archers were like magistrates or enforcers of the king's law.
That might be a role suited to Val then, as being someone who plays a similar role in life or has.
It will require Val then to, I guess, break the oath.
Break that, yeah.
Here's hoping
To
that
turn
dawn question's
against
Mark.
turn against the turn against the shadow, the king in shadows. Revolt against him.
So perhaps the king in shadows, who is represented simply by a floating crown of blood and ichor,
Mm.
tasks his noble archer and constabularies to search for the fragrant void, and it is perhaps a shadowy sigil of an organization trying to overthrow the king. Along that journey, the constabulary meets someone who is no beast, who is kind and helps them.
You mean like this is kind of like a reverse journey of like revolutionaries, like collecting on the way to
Yes.
go against the king?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Yes. So let's see. Collection has a fragrant void, and then no beast, the archer.
Crown representing the king in shadows.
Okay, give me a second. Crown.
I'm thinking something about the shadows lengthening and pointing in a particular direction. It's almost like pointing toward the king because he is like a shadow, so the light is he absorbs all the light, sucks the light toward him
So it's like the final
as it
showdown,
evolves.
kind of?
Yeah, I wonder if to me
Yeah,
that implies. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say what you were just saying, Rob, to me implies that perhaps like a light bearer or a light bringer
Mm,
might be a
mm,
character
mm,
to
mm.
break against that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, someone who brings the sun, even.
That very much feels like Kemuel's role.
Mm,
He is, I'm sorry, they are the sun to so many. If they quite literally fill part of the audience with their followers, they have their own Greek choir to counteract the king in shadows. People quite literally come to sing Kemuel's praises. That breaks.
To counteract the shadowy chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. All right.
Assuming Kemuel, you're willing to bring your followers together in one place.
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
mm. Does that make the iridescent shepherd's cloaks a symbol of Daymond then?
I backed myself into a corner. Apparently it does.
The iridescence does kind of tie into his
Ah,
silvery threads.
Yeah.
if it's breaking against that role though of the shepherd,
Mm,
Daymond Gray is a wolf, not a sheep.
mm, mm, mm.
Using, yeah. Oh, there was that on that vulnerable scene a while ago with that. Yeah. So we have a wolf,
A light bringer
a light bringer, no beast,
And a noble archer.
And a noble archer.
Okay. So, we've got these roll. Okay, so we're basically breaking out of these rolls, or you're creating like a reversal of roles that, like a ruthless beast, no beast, the um, enforcer, like the noble, like the antithesis is the noble archer, and then like the shadow bringer is the light bringer, is the light bringer is the opposing force, and of course the shepherd is like you've got the wolf as opposition. So you're breaking out of these roles and ruining the production itself, thereby returning order to London. So that is your
Yeah.
goal for resolving this threat for Night Phase.
We
So
need to.
We need to see if we're right about it, though, don't we?
yes, you do. So who's rolling? One die each for 2 players, or somebody rolls both dice with a +1.
We could split it.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1 die each, +1.
Mark, have you rolled for one of these
I
before?
don't think
I
I
was gonna
have, so
say,
I'll roll
no,
one
yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
You want to roll the other, Jeremy?
Sure.
Got a 6.
Good start.
5.
Ah,
Ooh,
6 plus 5.
Oh, no.
+1.
Does that mean the mastermind shows up?
So it's 12 total, right?
Yeah. Mastermind shows up for this one. Oh, boy.
It's going to be a puppet show, not a play.
Yes. Fun. It's going to be fun. You'll succeed. You'll be fine. Your answer is right. You're going to be breaking out of these roles. Or I should say, you are correct about these roles needing to be broken to be able to succeed and break the hold of the King in Shadows over London and restore order. So you are correct. If you want to go ahead and put that in the notes section of the resolution, that would be great. Or we just rewatch this again before next time, so this way we know what you're doing. That's perfectly fine. Do some Duskface stuff just to be ready for next time. Amazingly enough, nobody rolled any misses, so nobody called upon any masks. So that's amazing. Usually there's at least 1 mask per session, but I'm cool. It's cool. Don't think anybody's got any Duskface moves except for possibly Maribel, but I don't think that's the case. Let me just double check. Mark Live, no. That's a day thing. Okay, cool. All right, paint the scene question about Hargrave House. Let's see. Oh, yeah, since Kemuel almost went down there, let's go ahead and do this, and then I'll need to be reminded that Maribel gets a chance to have a shot at this as well. So the basement. This space is cluttered with the belongings of long-dead hunters who used to live in Hargrave House. What do you take from it? Add it to your personal quarters. Yay. What do you take from the basement of Hargrave House?
Have we not done this one already?
I don't remember. I
I
don't
remember
see
that we
any.
did, but unless it was episode 1, which I wasn't in.
No, it was not episode 1.
It could not be episode 1. I would never offer it for episode 1.
I think I have an idea that Val would take a bow.
And you can make it as special as you want, Val. I'm perfectly happy if you fun compound extra special,
Yes,
like
Scythian horsebow, maybe. Yeah.
Ooh, fun.
I think a little bit of Kemuel has rubbed off on Daymond Gray recently. I would say a gorgeous brightly colored shawl adorned with a lion.
I think Kemuel takes a beautifully crafted violin and bow. The violin, though, is carved of human bone, and the bow and strings are sinew and flesh.
I think Roger the Reaver liked music. Sounds about right. Yeah. Okay. And I'll leave a spot here for Maribel. And then we'll see what they end up taking. All right. So just make sure that these items end up in your personal quarters. Again, like any personal quarters item, you can mark it off mechanically once, but you can have it in your personal quarters item and call upon it, at any point to use fictionally. I'm okay if you do that numerous times unless something happens to make you break it or lose it, okay? But you can only use it mechanically for a roll once, all right? Okay. That is that for rooms at Hargrave House. Okay, you answered a question. I know I did it a little backwards, but I knew everybody was chomping at the bit to answer King and Shadows. What would you like to do for Night Phase? Gee, I wonder what. Is everybody going to be joining in for King and Shadows? Is that the plan?
We've all got roles to play.
Yeah, I think if there's all roles to play, we all will have to, yes?
It's a nice chance for us to all spend a night out together as a very dysfunctional family.
Oh, this is going to be great.
Especially with the mastermind showing up as well.
With an uninvited guest or a featured guest, depending on how you look at it. For sure. Absolutely. Oh, man, this could be great. And no unresolved Janus mass. What the heck? Amazing. So, what we're going to do is unconventional for the game, but this dust phase is your opportunity to do any fun preparation scenes with each other. If you want to talk, if you want to discuss, or if you want to, say anything to each other before you go into these weird roles, please do. While I try to figure out which unseen I want to do. So, have at it. This could be a vulnerable scene. This doesn't have to be a vulnerable scene. This could just be scenes. Remember, I'm a fan of the ham. So,
I'd imagine that Daymond would prepare a dinner. He's shown some adeptitude at cooking previously, so perhaps the kitchen table. A map of a stage laid out, some blocking directions. Small, not voodoo dolls, of each of the hunters on the stage. Daymond would push them around just a little.
And I think Val shows up in quite a surprising costume with a pointed leather hat and a cloak and like a padded jacket, and just says to Daymond, this seemed appropriate for the role I'm to play.
Looks good on you, Val. If I didn't know better, I'd say in another life you were one of Her Majesty's But no, one of King Arthur's archers.
I cannot say I am expert in the use of the bow, although I have seen them used most effectively.
At a shooting club or hunting boars?
I believe boars are usually hunted with a spear, Mr. Gray. Although I suppose one could.
Fair, it is not a hobby I've picked up or looked into. That still doesn't answer the question of where you've seen bows used.
In France,
We've been anywhere but France.
you are not an appreciator of the French.
They are so often our enemy in war, amongst other things. Though I imagine you've traveled far further than I and gotten to experience them firsthand.
And yet, our own nobility are drawn from French lineage, Mr. Gray.
What more do I have in common with a nobleman than a Frenchman? They are simply people who are not me or you.
I think that gives raises an eyebrow at that. Touche, Mr. Gray.
Touche indeed.
Have your
So,
own part in this play. A wolf.
yes, I believe there is a fur up in the trophy room that I can wear. Though it may need to be resized just a little.
Is playing the part of such a predatory beast something that comes naturally to you?
You look at a wolf and see a predator. I look at a wolf and see a slightly larger dog, a faithful companion with a little bit more bite than ordinary. But yes, the role of predator, as you put it, is one that is part of my inner nature, much as I try to hide it.
I think we all have that side to our personalities, Mr. Gray.
I would hazard a guess that all of us but Maribel have that. They do not yet seem corrupted by the realities of the world. Oh, and I suppose Kemuel, who seems immune to the modern.
But I feel we all harken back to the way things once were in our youths.
No, I prefer to leave what was done in the past in the past.
Things did seem simpler then, though, did they not?
No, they seemed just as complicated and scary, only without that voice to guide you. A conscience, is it not?
I would like to think that is something we are born with. Although, with a Mary Bell may have to be taught the meaning of conscience, has occurred to me. But then I suppose they were never born in the first place.
No, I suppose they were not. Do you think they'll be all right at their part in this play? Seeing as they seem to have such trouble acting as human as one should be.
My hope is that in playing out a role of kindness, there is something of that role that may rub off on them.
Perhaps a moral lesson to be found there.
It is only in the practicing of kindness and other forms of good deeds that we may find our virtues.
A similar sentiment, maybe without the word good. Deeds shape us. Good deeds shape us one way. Cruel deeds shape us another.
It is ironic, perhaps, that that calls to mind the words of a French philosopher, but I believe you are right.
Okay. So, I picked out the unseen for next time. We will start by the introduction of the unseen, the bitter end. Hopefully, we have everybody. It's not going to be next week because that is a family event day for me. So we will not be playing. Have time to think about it, and yeah. Stars and wishes. Sorry, such an abrupt end. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to keep you guys much longer because I mean, like, I've done that too many times and I feel bad. So yeah, let's just like jump into stars and wishes after this end of the dusk phase for the most part, and we'll jump into dusk phase for the next session and right into night phase. But just recall, day phase is for the hunters, but night phase belongs to me. So I have 2 weeks to decide stuff. So I can't wait. All right. Stars, things you enjoy about this session, gameplay, roleplay, each other, wishes, things that you'd like to see for next time and the future. I'm just going to say it off the bat. I love the pointed barbs slash banter between Val and Daymond. Always choice, always beautiful. Very wise things, and then goes right into and it's just fun. Um, the little callbacks each of you remember to give, or maybe you don't realize that they're callbacks. I mean, because if you do realize that they're callbacks, they're genius. Um, Stuff with the I started specifically you mentioning the rock at the University of London, Jeremy. Calling back to Kemuel, which I thought was amazing. Love that. Um, and then there was another mention of something else from somebody else's description, which was great. So I'm glad you guys are paying attention. I'm glad you guys are working off of each other because, these are great paint the scenes. These are great things to remember details from previous episodes and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just enjoying all the fun. Um, I think it was a very varied experience today. I mean, College of Arms is obviously not in any threat. It's just a really great place to visit. Um, Jesus, that's amazing. That's an amazing costume. And then, yeah, Kemuel's adventures over at the University of London was fun because I got to introduce several NPCs, and the way that kind of closed out was interesting as well. But we'll see if that has any lasting effect on Kemuel themselves. And yeah, that bit with Daymond Gray. Who knows? Who knows? Has anything to do with anything. So, I enjoyed myself. This was great. You guys are awesome as always. And wishes more of the same. Yeah, I mean, I do intend on including a holiday threat coming up. When it actually airs won't be during Christmas for sure, but yeah, that's the fun of this kind of stuff. I just like including it for your benefit. And then I'm pretty sure I want to include Whateley camera in the mix, for one of the last threats. So hopefully we get to it.
Yeah, I was going to say star for the hint of the Whateley camera coming out. That was cool.
You may or may not like my version of the Void. That's all I'm saying. We'll see.
It's fine. Yeah, I remember it fondly from Shadow Society.
That's Jason's version of the Void. Again, I have a different version. So
I really enjoy the way Mark is playing up Kemuel's like possession influence by the orchid. I'm really interested to see where that goes, and I'm very much looking forward to wrapping up King in Shadows so that the rest of us can get involved in that threat as well. Yeah, I did enjoy the few barbs that Daymond and I got to exchange. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm coming down with something, so I was a little off my game tonight, but it was fun, and I did enjoy the I don't know, the kind of hint of Val's history that I got to do with showing up at the College of Arms, and this old person who maybe I knew as a young person, and I don't know. I feel like we could. A wish is maybe that we have an opportunity or a reason to return there, and I will be thinking about ways to flesh that out.
yeah, please do. I mean, like I said, if you have an idea for an associated NPC for your character, I am totally open to it. I mean, Jeremy knows from his campaign how much I love to throw in, custom NPCs. Sure, for sure. So, yeah. His campaign, I will say, Darkened Mirrors has seen like the most customized NPCs that I've ever thrown into any between campaign. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Between Victor's cousin, fiance, the NPC that kept on getting into trouble, and then like, you know, a couple of other NPCs that just happen to like wander in and wander out. I mean, like, yeah, that's the most customized NPCs that I've ever had in the campaigns, which I totally enjoyed. So yeah, please do. I mean, like, I'm happy to flesh that out with you if you want as well, Rob. So yeah, go for it.
Yep, sounds good.
Stars across the board for Rob. You you brought in so much real world history into just various moments that it grounded tonight's session in a way that made the supernatural really stand out. Everything that Val did was so historical, so there. The references to real world French philosophers, the references to real world publications and organizations. And that grounding really, really shined. Mads, you were more on point with your intriguing questions than I've seen in a very long while. Some of those questions that you asked hit home and was a pause and think about, like a snap out of reality moment of, oh, that's a question, and each one made it great. And Mark, Kemuel's in danger. Kemuel put themselves into a dangerous situation. Brilliant. I loved it that Kemuel went alone, no follower, no obvious followers, no obvious backup, into a botanist's room. And pardon the pun, but it very much feels like Kemuel is branching out. As far as a wish, it's not going to happen, and I'm okay with that. But I would like a 30-minute monologue from Kemuel describing their costume for the play in the most intricate detail of this material's from so-and-so, it was made by, and just everything. Like Fashion Week, but for Kemuel's costume for this one session. I know it's not going to happen, but I so want it.
Yes, perhaps not a 30-minute monologue, but maybe I can meet you a quarter of the way there. Jeremy, I just wanted to star the vulnerable scene that we did at the beginning. I really enjoyed that. I felt it was really really juicy and fun to do. I always find it kind of thrilling how Daymond can be so clearly at peril and so confident and calm. And that was an interesting contrast then when in the conversation with the puppeteer, Daymond said, they're just to do as they're told. I thought that was an interesting facet. Rob, I want to star the mask that you did at the beginning. That was really wonderful. And I don't know if I noticed a pattern, but it feels like a lot of these masks, there's this real balance of a sort of melancholy scene, a sort of maybe romantic or but tinged with sadness. And then this like either an actual action scene or something that implies really dramatic action. And it hits it home how much Valentine is a sort of action a figure of action, a heroic figure who's been, or certainly at least a protagonistic figure who's been involved in all these sorts of serious conflicts. And I felt like the answer to the question about where Valentine had seen bows and archery being in France was delightful because that's so much that's just like dripping with implication, I thought, and really enjoyed that. Mads dropping a secret organization that spans potentially multiple campaigns. Like my eyes opened up for that. Wow. Fantastic. And that whole scene with the Mistress of Puppets and Daymond was so arch and scary and thrilling. So I really enjoyed that. And Wishes, I'm just very excited to see the resolution of the King of Shadows. I love that threat, and it's I really enjoyed the answer a question and well, all the implications of that. So
For absolute certain. I mean, I do agree. I mean, like the vulnerable move, I wanted to also star as well, but for a different reason than just because it was the vulnerable move. I think it was also provocative because it was so. I'm trying to remember if like a previous vulnerable move with the two of you had been quite as intimate before. I mean, like I feel like Damon Gray was like, we're talking touching. Yeah, I think yeah, because I think I remember that you know, uh Kemuel had like, slapped or smacked Damon Gray before, but I think in this case it's like Kemuel allowed Damon to touch them, which I feel like, oh my God, undeniable. Are you kidding me? I mean, like, this is like some powerful shit here. You should be exploding right now. But they allowed it. And also, it's like, like you were like guiding them to touch you as well. And it was just like such an intimate moment that I just felt like, what are we watching here? This is like, I feel like I'm watching like kind of like like part of a romantic film as well. And I'm like, what is happening? So it was like such a great moment. I loved it. And that's why I would start as well, but just for the different reason, right? I'm if you can hang on like once I pause, like once I stop the recording, like if you want to hang on for a couple of minutes and I'll explain like the whole secret organization crap, like like what's going on in the other campaign, that would be great. But yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do with the resolution for King and Shadow, and then see what you do with the continuation of investigating the Emerald Orchid. This one's a weird one. I've never done this one before. We touched upon it in the Mastermind play test that I had done with Jason, which was mini series, like maybe I think 4 episodes or whatever, and like we just barely even like hit it, right? So it was um, interesting just to get the little taste of what we did and try to um, see what we could get involved with. But there's like so much stuff here, and it works strangely well with Kemuel's undeniability and Damon's occultness, and then like Val's time travel thing. I mean, like, like maybe this is something that, like, once Val gets involved, like maybe there's like, some sense of like this has happened before, may have been seen before, don't know yet. This is like an alien presence, but is it from within, from without? We don't know. We're not sure. So I can't wait to see what you guys do with this. And there's still yet another threat that nobody has even touched yet. So I'm gonna make payback on that one. We'll see how this turns out. I don't know how I'm gonna force that one through. And I keep forgetting, and I have to remember this. There is still a servant of the mastermind still running about, besides her usual servants. So gotta bring that back at some point as well. That'll be fun. That'll be great. Can't wait. All right.